Alright everyone, welcome to today's recap. I hope you all are doing well and staying blessed. If you guys are new here, my name is Jeremiah and I'm a small cap day trader. Today is unfortunately a red day. Um, we had a little bit of a good green streak there going, but I guess all good things come to an end at some point. Maybe that's not true, but anyways, um, today's a red day. I'm down $3.80 something cents or 60 cents. I don't remember the exact number, but my first trade here was on UGRO. Um, this stock has a float of 680,000 shares. We traded this one yesterday actually, and I didn't really love the price action on this stock. However, I did end up trading it, and I don't think I've been as picky as I should be recently. So, especially in a colder market, you really have to kind of narrow down the setups you're willing to take. And I only have four here, and I think I took many more than four different setups this trading day and yesterday. But let's get right into this first trade here. Um, Not sure what the setup here. Maybe the break over 50. Um, I'm not sure. I took it with smaller share size, so it was not one I was super sure about anyways. Obviously. But also I take smaller share size on the first trade. I probably shouldn't have taken this trade. I really don't know what exactly the setup was there. No clear setup that I don't like. Obviously, nobody else was like really looking at it like, wow. Otherwise, it would have worked. Um, Anyways, next trade is on UGRO again. This was the dip off the 90 MA. Not a great setup. Once again, it's just the way the pattern is, I guess. Like we have a topping tail here, um, and then in one candle, it's dipping right back down to the 90 MA. You know, it's always better when you have a move up like this, and then it starts to pull back, and then in a few red candles, it goes down to the 90 MA. If it goes down in one candle to the 90 MA, it's either not a big enough move or it's not really pulling away. Um, so that ended up being a break-even trade, so no big deal on that one. However, I did take one more trade before this. Hold on. So it was right here for the break over this daily level. I believe yes. And so it pops up there, and I take my profit fairly quickly for 8 cents of profit a share. Not a bad trade, but once again, the way this is moving is really not really that nice, to be quite honest. So after laying down for a bit, I got back up to take a trade on KPTI. This stock, um, I was, I really don't know what the setup here was. Maybe the break over 8. But once, as I established in yesterday's video, I said the break over $0.50 and whole dollars is not a super viable setup in a cold market because uh, if you're buying before it breaks that psychological level, then it's resistance. Obviously, if you're taking the bounce off of that level, it's support. So not really the best setup. Um, okay, maybe that wasn't the setup I took. I don't know what exactly I took here. Maybe a dip. Yeah, I think it was sort of a dip trade, looking for the move higher. Which honestly, this isn't a terrible type of setup, but the risk is that you're already buying in high and it could just completely reject you. You have no idea. Um, Whereas if you got in at the 90 MA, I mean, you'd have a much less risky trade. And so I kept getting in and getting out here because it was sort of just grinding higher and it wasn't really pulling away as I expected it to. I was looking for the high of day there, but we didn't get that. So I took another trade here. Uh, I wanted to get in on the dip, but then my execution was not quick enough. Wait. So yeah, I got in there with 10 shares. So I ended up selling that for a small winner. I can't remember. Was the last trade? Last trade was a loser. Hold on. So this right here is the trade that was a loser. Um, Trying to buy the dip and rip, and then obviously it dropped a little bit lower. I sold like really quickly on that, just being a little bit scared because I think I jumped in with 10 shares, so I was a little bit quicker to get out of there. I forgot to say this stock has a float of 16.27 million shares, so pretty relatively low float, but in relation to the stocks we've seen make bigger moves in this market, it's kind of high. Like we like to see sub 10, sub 5 is better, sub 1 is even better, obviously. Um, but yeah. And so I know I'm getting into over trading when I see myself take trades like minute after minute. There was no real setup there. Um, yeah, no obvious setup. Like I couldn't look at this and be like, oh, there's the setup. I don't know. Maybe anticipation for first candle to make a new high. Um, I don't know. But anyways, not a setup I'm supposed to be taking. So looking back in hindsight, obviously it would have been great if I had just walked away here because I went deeper into the red than this. I was down $1.50, and I think in my head I kind of knew like I should have walked away here, and I think I was even thinking about it when I was down 23 cents on UGRO. Um, However, no, actually I sat in my bed saying I'm not gonna trade anymore after UGRO, I believe. It was either this or KPTI. But I ended up coming back to my charts and getting back in here. I don't know exactly where. So it was right here. I was looking for the break over the high of day. Got in there at 70. The high was at 90, so I was thinking, okay, 20 cents to the high. We can probably do that for sure. But that does not end up playing out. And shortly after I take another trade for first candle to make a new high. Once again, not a setup I'm supposed to be taking in this market. But clearly the rules have been thrown out the window today. So I end up holding this one a little bit longer. I got stubborn here for sure. I got really stubborn. Yes, I got very stubborn there. And that brought me down to $3.44 in the red on KPTI. So just when you think things can't get worse, I end up taking another trade here for the dip, I think. I got a super high fill on that. That's not where I was intending to enter. However, it is what it is. And I actually no. This is one where I did actually mean to jump in there for the micro pullback and not even a tick in profit. So had I just waited to see if it was gonna just dip and then stall for a second and then rip, then it would have been much better because then I could have recognized that it was just gonna dump, and that would be much better to have not taken this trade. However, I felt scared that it was just gonna go without me, and so I got FOMO and jumped in. So not great, not a great reason at all to be taking this trade, but that's how I think that's what happened in my head. Because we had seen earlier today some stocks where it didn't even dip down for a second. It just went straight up from the open of that candle, and I felt FOMO, um, the fear of missing out on this move if I didn't just jump in right away. And so emotionally, I just jumped in, and I take this trade. This is not a real like a setup I really take either. Um, yes, I take the bounce off of VWAP, but this is not a bounce, and I take the hold above VWAP. I guess you could argue it's holding above VWAP, but I don't know. They're really not no setup there. And then I jump in there at the high of that candle. Once again, I get stopped out, and this was like so frustrating. If you guys can see my face on my stream, it's very dark, but I was so frustrated after that. I was like, there's no way I just bought it at the top of that candle, and I stopped out like at the bottom essentially. Where was the low of that or the? Anyways, okay, it's not working for me, but whatever. So that was AIDX. That stock had a float of 4.24 million shares, and did it have news? Yes. BioLabs announces exclusive U.S. license agreement with ROKIT Healthcare to integrate advanced KCD prediction technology into its longevity test program. Um, so yes, it did have news, but this is how it was received. It popped up for a little bit in hard sell-off, and I'm ashamed to say that I was in part of this flush right here. So, I mean, this is just so bad. This is such bad trading. I'm supposed to be trading stocks that are pulling away, and I'm supposed to be trading. There's a few setups I have on here: 9 EMA, 1 minute pivot, micro pullback. When I say micro pullback, I mean dip and rip. That's the only micro pullback that's really acceptable. And then there's the $half and whole dollar entries. That's really it. And the breakthrough, the 9 EMA or the $half, whole dollar, are trades I don't take either. Just the bounce or dip off of those levels. So I do end up trading CVV. This stock, I was going for the break over that pivot right there, which I think we got. This stock has a float of 5.29 million shares, and it did have news. So it broke over that pivot, which is nice. I have my profit target set there. It feels like today the charts and the time and sales were really delayed on Webull. Like you guys, I don't know if you guys saw that, but like my order filled right like before the candle even got to it. So something was really, I don't know, off about today. And I think I bought this dip here. Terrible fill on that. Absolutely terrible fill. I pressed my buy button when it was down here and I got filled up there. So thankfully I ended up getting out of here with some profit. And I essentially made back everything I lost on AIDX, which is really a good feeling because after this loss where I got caught in that flush, even though it wasn't more than this, it just felt like I knew I should have walked away here when I didn't. I knew I should have walked away here when I didn't. And so that's 2 times, and then another time, the third time I should have walked away. And yes, I know I should have walked away on CVV as well. I should not have traded it. But I will say it feels good to have made back what I lost. Obviously, the worst case scenario would be that I lost again, and that would really hurt me. But I shouldn't have traded anything past UGRO, realistically. Honestly, UGRO is fine because it was a small loss, but price action today was really bad for me, in my opinion. And it was a really cold day in the market, so trying to push harder on days like this is not a recipe for success in any way. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you guys are surviving this cold market. It sucks, but you know, you got to survive the cold market to enjoy the hot ones. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you all in the next one, and